What's up, y'all? It's been a minute since I did a podcast episode. So last one I did was probably 3 years ago with Dr. Lawhorn. If you haven't checked out that episode, check that out. Good talks with my man. Shout out to Dr. Lamont Lawhorn up in Virginia now at VSU. Today we are on the East Coast. We are in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, my hometown, on the South Side. And this is my mother, Chanel, Miss Chanel, also known, well, Mrs. Chanel. I don't be differentiating. I just be saying it. It's all the same. Miss Chanel. Some people refer to you as Mama Dash. I don't really know. I don't think you like that, but you ain't got no choice. That is the people. That's what they know you as. So yeah, welcome to the show, Ma. You gotta hold the mic up though. You can't just hold it out. Ain't nobody gonna hear you. You gotta hold it up. So yeah, this is the fake podcast. I don't know if I'm still using that name, but whatever. It is what it is. So tell us about you. Tell the people about you. First off, how you doing today? I know we've been up and running the whole day. So how are you?
I am tired. This is a labor of love for you today.
Appreciate it. Yeah, introduce yourself. Tell us about who you are a little bit.
My name is Chanel. I am a wife of 31, almost 32 years, mother of 3. I am in what I consider to be my sunset career. I work in philanthropy and get a chance to really do some systems change work here in our community, helping to direct investments and ensure that all people in Forsyth County are thriving. In addition to that, depending on what denomination, in our denomination, I'm licensed as an evangelist missionary, but definitely I am a holder and presenter of the gospel. But
I laugh because I don't think I've ever heard you use that title like that for real. I don't even know evangelist missionary. Yeah, I've never heard you say that before. But it's also funny because somebody recently asked me, like, they were like, "Are you a PK?" And I'm like, I don't know, like, technically, I guess, maybe. But it's like my parents wasn't pastors of the church, but they both got their preaching license. They can marry people and bury people if they need to and preach and do all the other stuff. So they asked me how was it like growing up like that, and I'm like, man, I went to church, but I was just I was there because I had to be. Outside of them 2 hours and 4 hour services, I was doing my own thing, like,
right.
Which, I mean, that's no secret to y'all. I don't know how everybody else would feel about that, but I did my own thing, and I was just I ain't gonna say I was outside or nothing, but I was out there, just
living life,
doing my own thing, making my own moves, and not necessarily letting y'all's I don't know if status is the right word, but letting y'all's affiliation determine like what I did and the life I chose to live, I'd say. So, but how was that for you growing up, like with your dad being a pastor?
Oh, I think it was definitely it was a different experience, which is probably why y'all had a different experience. But my father was and is still the pastor, and also growing up in a church that is Pentecostal, and so there were just lots of rules and traditions that did a lot of governing of how we moved in life. My dad was also, and my mom, they were very big on. We didn't necessarily get to operate in this title of like first family. We were members, but we were also, the first to do everything. So if we got to church and nobody was there to lead, at the time it was called testimony meeting, you got to go do it. If you get there and somebody needed to read the scripture and wasn't nobody there, you got to do it. But we also were taught to serve, so we weren't the children of the pastor who got to go to the front of the line. We were in the line serving people. We were in the line cleaning up the kitchen. And I think it taught us humility, and I think it also impacted, choices I made in life to see people as whole people, not like feeling like the ministry owed me anything. So yeah, but it was also, when I grew up, we didn't wear pants, we didn't wear red lipstick, we didn't
like
wear
the rules.
Right, rules. And it's also been, I think, very liberating to watch my father, I think, grow and expand and not get so stuck in the religion and the traditions, and just giving people space to kind of like focus on the things that's important.
Living life,
right,
having an enjoyable life, and not because I noticed like some people are so stuck in this like box that they don't get to live. It's almost like everything that they do and every and I am a firm believer, like, you get a praise where praise is due, but hey man, every step and every breath, like, bro, live. Like, don't I don't know, I feel some people really, I don't want to say take it too serious, but don't let life be enjoyable because they're so hyper focused on
You're right.
religion. And people can feel how they want to feel about that, but
and I think it's also important, like the Bible tells us to I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly, and I think it's up to us to choose what an abundant life is. And for some people, abundance to them is, they spend all their time in church. They, and I don't judge them, but I wonder if they really take the depth of that scripture and understand like what it means to have an abundant life. And it's not just about what we do in the afterlife. It's how do we live? How do we explore things? How are we taking advantage of this world that God created? Who are we to limit ourselves and, not taking the opportunity to explore it all?
Yeah. And another thing I think might be like a big put off is like, you see people who may claim a religion or faith of love, but don't necessarily treat people or don't expand that same love to people. You know what I mean? Like people out in their community, people out in the world, people who don't look like them, people who don't believe in what they do. And it's like, man, at the end of the day, if you practice or, claim to be a follower of a religion or faith that is built on love, but you don't show that same love and grace to other people, then are you really walking in that faith for real? Like, what example are you setting for, if you want people to be a part of that and believe how you believe, but this is how you act towards them, why would I?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, in this, looking at the time that we're in right now, I think it is more apparent, and it is more important for those who, who like me, I'm a Christian. I, wholeheartedly believe that, not only am I a follower, but also, compelled to bring others. But, like you said, a lot of that, people don't come into church and hear me preach, but they watch how I move. They watch how I live. They watch how I interact with other people. And, the Bible says when you do it to one, if you do it to the least of them, you've done it also to me. And so when we choose to put people in boxes or, focus on, something as simple as, who a person loves, what ethnicity they are, what community they live in, we gotta let God sort all that out. But people will remember how you made them feel. Do you show love to people? And, are you taking care of humanity that God created?
For sure. Absolutely. Great talks on that. shift the conversation. Another thing you touched on, I think that might have been the first thing you said, was you are a wife of 31 years, almost 32.
Well, 32 this year. Yeah, it was 32 this year. Yeah.
Oh, it was 32 this year. I'm tripping. Yeah.
No, I said 31, but it was 32 this year.
Okay, yeah. So 32 going on 33. Cool. What's that like? Matter of fact, rewind. How did y'all meet back in back in 1980 something?
And I met in chorus in high school.
What year was this? Like, what year was it for you?
I think I was in the 10th grade and he was in the 11th grade.
So it was 80.
That would have been in 1987, 88. I can't remember if it was. So probably fall of 87. And yeah, we just happened to be in the chorus, and over time, got to know each other. But I knew he liked me because he was also in classes with one of my high school best friends, and she just kept Faith Small.
Oh, yeah, Faith.
But we don't call names on what you call them.
Well,
so
you can say their name, but no, I ain't gonna put like first and last name. But you say names. No, we say names on here.
But they were friends, and so he had expressed, that he was interested in me, and I was like, and she was just like, nah, he good people, and I was like, yeah, but he wear Wrangler jeans.
What's wrong with Wrangler jeans?
They were in Levi's.
First of all, I didn't know. I don't know if I knew like that to the chorus. I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so we sang in the chorus together. We danced in the chorus together. Like, so one of the performances, we danced in the chorus, and I think the song was like "In Your Easter Bonnet" or something like that. But yeah. So we were in chorus together, and finally one day I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out with him, because my girlfriend was just like, you just gotta go out on one date. I was like, okay, one date. And
when was that though?
35 years later.
How long? Like, when was that? When were you like, yeah, I'm gonna go out with him?
I can't remember. It was after he had graduated.
Dang.
Yeah. So I mean, in the beginning, I didn't know that he was like in. It wasn't until after we had come out of the chorus class, and then he had graduated when we first went out.
So you didn't know, like, in the chorus class?
Yeah, it was just, that kind of like flirtatious kind of.
Okay.
But yeah.
Y'all was familiar?
Yes. We were familiar with each other, but it wasn't until he graduated that we went out for the first time.
Okay, cool. And then what, like?
So our first date was to putt-putt, and that was because I chose. I was like, I'm gonna do something I don't like to do. So I don't like to be outside. I don't like doing. I was trying to like set this up to be like, okay, I did it, and we can go on.
Was putt-putt still on Stratford,
still
like
on
across
Stratford
from the mall?
Road.
Is it still there?
It's called something else. It's called something else, but yeah, it's still got the same elephant and all that stuff out there.
Wow, that's crazy.
But yeah, so I just remember. Like the whole time we were there, I just remember like laughing nonstop, just absolutely laughing the entire time, and coming home and just being like, "Wow, that was crazy."
What you expected?
It wasn't
even what you wanted it to be. You wanted it to be.
I wanted it to sabotage. Right.
Crazy. You see how they be doing?
Right. So we went to putt-putt, and then he was like, where you want to go eat? And I was like, Wendy's. No, in Goodwill, I ain't want to go to no Wendy's. But, I was just trying to, like, let's get this thing done.
Yeah.
And be done with it. But we've been together since.
What do you think is your key to being married for 32 years?
So one, I think, is just making a choice to love the person you're with. I tell people all the time, we got married, we was kids. I was 21 years old when I got married. I didn't know. I had seen my parents be married, so I had an example of what marriage was. But when you're on the outside looking in, you don't really know. Like, you could grow up in the same house and still not see and understand, like, all the things that it takes to make a good relationship. And I think, it is one, making that decision to love somebody every day. I think getting married young, we have evolved over and over and over again. We certainly cannot be the same people we were. So it's just like, choosing to do that, but also being in a relationship with somebody who respects me, protects me, and always make sure that I'm good is easy to love. I don't have to deal with a lot of the trauma and drama that comes in relationships, and I think that's also something. But marriage it's not easy. I mean, you've got financial challenges. Your father and I both have had cancer diagnosis and having to deal with that. I've lost my mother. I've also had other illnesses, and it's just learning to kind of navigate life together. It is not roses. It is not roses. It's this new thing when people get married. They want to take out the for better and worse. They just want to have the better, and they just want to have health, and they just want to have riches. But that's not life. Like, life is ebbs and flows, and who the person that you love is when you in the bottom really is the character of that person.
Yeah.
And so, in the bottom, your dad is the person I want to do life with.
For sure. You talking him up right now. That's
a
good man.
He a good man. That's a good man, Savannah.
I don't even know what that's from, but I hear it used a lot, but I have no idea. I think
it's from. It might be from Waiting to Exhale. I can't remember. It might be from Waiting to Exhale.
And I did just watch that movie not too long ago. It's also a really great song by Whitney Houston. Motherhood.
Motherhood is probably a bigger evolution than marriage. I, having 2 biological children and a bonus child, I think particularly parenting a black male was probably the scariest thing I ever did in my life.
Elaborate, please.
Yeah, so...
Please elaborate.
I will. I think I lived in a constant state of fear that something would happen to you and that I would have to bury you. And I don't know if you remember when I would say stuff like, please don't do nothing to make me have to look over your casket. Winston was, becoming like a hot place. I remember when I got ready to go to college and, like the violence started to shift in Winston. The drug culture started to shift in Winston. It felt like it was this almost like cloud where young black men just were not getting out, and it didn't matter about your potential. It didn't matter, where you came from. There was something that was constantly creating this space where young black men were going to jail or they were going to the grave. And I just, it felt like I woke up every day trying to figure out, like, what do I got to do to save him? And I think that actually impacted a lot of the ways in which I parented you in a negative way, because it was like everything to me was, I just got to make sure he get out of here. And, I remember when my friends, like, it's time for everybody to go to school and everybody else was crying. And it was like the biggest sigh of relief when I got on 85 coming back this way after we dropped you off to college. I just felt like getting you out of Forsyth County meant that you weren't going to die.
Bro, I went to Durham.
Right. Right. In the Bull City, right in the middle of all the stuff. But I think for me, I believe that it was more about the presence here. Like, I literally moved, because I don't know if you remember when I would say, no, you got to get a different zip code. People were like, well, you don't want your son to go to, what's the same state? No, he got to get a different zip code. Like, I just literally felt like you had to leave out of here. And wherever you went, if you left here, you were going to be okay. As long as I got you to, like, that next space, you was going to be fine. And so, even now with you living in Tulsa, I tell people when John Michael come back to Winston, like, my heart rate go up. Like, it is something about him being in this city or you being in this city that just gives me a sense of unease. And, oftentimes I'm like, it's not about you. It's not about the choices. It's about, I don't know. I don't watch too many people watch their sons either take them down there to Cherry Street and put them chains behind them, or they burying them. And I literally was the thing that drove a lot of the ways in which I parented you, like literally from a place of fear.
Is that how much of that has? And we ain't never really talked about this, but I talk about this kind of often sometimes. How much of that fear impacted you, like making me leave a week after graduation?
Oh, absolutely, it drove everything.
Because that I'm gonna be honest, I was hot, like because I had things to do that summer, like.
You had your band.
In a career wise, like I'm like, yo, we're about to really work on the project, hopefully complete this project this summer. And you was like, nah. Graduated on the 10th, on the 19th, I was gone, and I'm just like, bruh, I don't have no control or no say or nothing. Like that ended a phase of my life in terms of like music career wise, and I held on to that for a long time because I was like, man, if we could have just did that one, like if we could have just had that one EP, it could have changed some stuff potentially or not. Who's to say? But I don't know. For a while, I was just like, man, I really wish we could have just did that and made it happen. But hearing you say that kind of gives some clarity to like where your mindset was, and I guess it wasn't just, oh, you finished high school, you gotta go. Because that's really how I saw it. Because you used to frequently talk about like me not being like staying here after I turned 18. And I wasn't even 18 yet. I was 17.
Right, 17 years old.
I was barely 17, and I'm like out of here. I'm like, dang, like what happened to like it's June. I got 6 more months. Like where is that at? But you know, hey. So that answers some questions. I guess we just never really talked about that part. But to like the parenting style thing, you know, and I know we've talked about this amongst ourselves, but what was like the biggest challenge in raising me?
You was hard headed.
My bad.
I think when you...
I think for good reason though, but go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think when you raise children to advocate for themselves, to have some autonomy, that doesn't come without challenge. Because, you know, it's like, well, you can't tell somebody you need to be your own person. You need to make decisions for yourself and then not expect them to challenge the decisions that you're making for them. I think the other part was watching you have so much potential and so little desire to use that potential. In which way?
Like potential in what area?
Academics.
Yeah.
Like brilliant and like I'm not doing that much. I remember, you know, in the second grade you used to take that AIG test for academically gifted. And for whatever reason, I can't remember why you had to take it in the summer, but I remember when I went to pick you up and the lady was like, he finished his whole test in 20 minutes. And it was because it was a Saturday. You wanted to go play football. You didn't want to go take the test.
Not
anyway.
that I wanted to like go play football. I actually was in a league on a football team and we had a game that Saturday.
And in your, I mean, but you was gonna miss the game anyway. But in your mind, it was an act of defiance. If I finish, I can. No, it was, you know, I feel like it was an act of defiance, and you know, you wasn't motivated by being in the highest class. You was like, they got to do extra work, and I'm not interested in doing none of that. Like, have you seen what they do during recess? Yeah. So I think it was, you know, like that mindset of C's get degrees and it don't take all that, and I'm a kid. But you definitely live by the motto C's get degrees.
But like, I say this, that I was sleeping through school, not really putting forth a lot of effort, and I still, like, that's how I know I could have done more. Yeah. Because I remember even like that first semester or quarter or whatever, however they did them, that first quarter of my senior year, I had a 4.0, and I was like, see, I can do it. And then after that, I went back to
but
chilling.
I don't want to. Yeah.
So, I mean, definitely not the... And when I do tell that to, like, my students or just younger people in general, I'll definitely tell them, like, don't take that approach, because it limits you. It limits what you can do, because people don't necessarily always judge you based off your potential, but off of what you did.
Right.
So my transcript doesn't show that I was asleep. It just shows I got a 3.1.
Right.
Versus if I would have just tried,
yeah,
I would have had maybe a 3.8 or something, or maybe a 4.0. Probably not, but who knows? Like, so yeah, nah, you're right.
But I think the other thing, you were and are, like, talented. So it was all, like, I remember when you were, like, playing with the band and, being able to go and watch y'all, play downtown on Friday nights and the Sunday afternoon, arts festivals, and when y'all played at the restaurants and whatnot. But just, like, a talented drummer, like, I remember you was like, oh, the orchestra teacher asked me if I could come play for them at the concert. I was like, what? Do you know the song? You was like, nah, I just... But I mean, literally, so we went to the orchestra concert and you, like, playing a full set of drums at the orchestra concert.
Miss Reader. Shout out to Miss Reader. Yeah. Shout out Miss Reader.
But yeah, I mean, just like watching your talent, I think, most people who knew you, they knew that you were, respectful. Other than a couple teachers, I never got problems, calls about you being disrespectful to adults.
That one Spanish teacher my freshman year. I know her name. I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, we ain't gonna call her name, but yeah, she got on my nerves too.
She was tripping. I was tripping, but she was also tripping.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like being an educator now, I feel like even if your students are tripping, you got a responsibility as an adult to not play the petty Olympics with them.
Right. You gotta demonstrate.
Yeah. Me, if I got a kid that's tripping, I'm gonna pull him to the side, like, hey, look, bro, what we doing? This can either go this way, where we both have this mutual respect for each other, or you just gonna keep tripping, and I'm gonna just look at you, and you're not gonna get the response you want out of me.
But I think the other side of that, I don't think I really realized it until your little sister was born and went to school. Like, I remember when you were in elementary school, having a teacher call me and she said you were defiant. So of course that warranted a whole trip to the school, because you're not about to be using language like that to describe my son. So when I get to the school, I think he was in the third grade. You was in the second or the third grade. I can't remember.
Had to be in the third. That was public school.
You're right, because it was the first year you went to public school. And so, that's some strong negative language using to describe my son. And when I asked her to, tell me about your experiences, she focused on stuff like, well, when I talk to him, he's like staring at me. And I was like, you mean he's making eye contact with you? And she was like, but it's like he's trying to intimidate me with his eyes. And I was like, by giving you his undivided attention while you're speaking, and he's thinking and processing what it is that you're saying to him. And as I'm saying these things, she keeps like trying to come back. And every time it's like, no, you're not going to make any of that be negative. He is a young black man. He has been taught that these are the things that you do. When somebody is speaking to you, you look them directly in the eye. You don't let nobody intimidate. He's not going to look at the floor when you're talking to him, because he wasn't raised like that. We raised the king. And I just remember, like, all the times that I remember a teacher telling you, like, you don't have to worry so much about grades. Oh, I got to make a trip to the school, because you're not going to tell my son to be mediocre, because you're not telling the little white boy across the row from him to be mediocre. And then, it's like, oh, I love your son. You don't have to love him. You just got to teach him. But what I know is if he doesn't work to his full potential and you don't encourage him to work to his full potential, my question is why? Is it because you want to make sure that he don't compete with your son or your neighbor? So, always I think, having to push that question around, especially how do white people experience you. So it was the adultification. I saw that in you, where I saw you as an 8-year-old child full of joy. And somebody's telling me that they see you as a child who is intimidating. Like, you're 8 years old. Who is he intimidating? but it is just, like that whole concept of how people view our black children. Yeah. And it wasn't until your sister went to school that I realized, okay, so this is colorism. This is genderism. And I started to see just the difference in how people responded. And your sister was the one that was always running her mouth. Now, if anybody was going to be defiant, disrespectful, she about to start a whole, you remember when she sent that note to all her friends and told them to wear hoodies and bring Skittles to school after Trayvon Martin got killed? Right. But they just, she's a leader. Now, if you had done that, they probably would have been calling the school system like he trying to start a riot at the school. That would have been on the news. Right. But she on the news because she calling news at the school. Right. Ain't nobody seeing her as defined, and I think it wasn't until... And she's little, too. I think that... Right. I think it's, the fact that she's little, but I also think that there is also, colorism played a big part in that. And the adultification of children. And I just was not going to allow anybody to create an avenue that they were going to, do this school to prison pipeline on you. So, even when there were issues at the school, I'm the one coming to the school like, you're not putting it in this file. So we're going to sit down and we're going to come up with a mutual understanding of how we can address this issue, because I believed in holding you accountable. But also, you're not about to create a narrative about my son that he never gets a chance to move forward.
Speaking of school to prison pipeline, I only went to jail once. And it was an accident.
What is you talking about?
So, when I first moved to Tulsa, I had to go and get these fingerprints done for that program deal I was doing. And so I look up, like, where do I need to go? Cool. Had to go to the sheriff's office. All right. Mind you, I'm, like, fresh in Tulsa. This is probably within the first month of me being there.
Right.
So I do my little Googles. Boom. Get the address. I go. I see the building. I seen somebody walk in the door. Okay. Follow them in.
About to get yourself locked up for real, for real.
I walk smooth in the building, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm not in the front. There's no office. There's no desk. There's no nothing. I start walking. I see this officer hit the corner. She's like, yeah, can I help you? Mind you, I done seen like weight rooms and stuff. Like, I'm like, and this is a Whitehall. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking for the front. Like, I'm trying to get fingerprints done. She's like, yeah, fingerprints, you need to go to the sheriff's office. I was like, oh, okay. So, like, what is this? She said, jail. I ain't never left the building so fast in my life, because I'm like, they will keep me here if they can. And so that's my jail experience. Hey, man. That's as much as I want to have.
I ain't know where we was going with this conversation.
Yeah, nah. I just went to the wrong place. But my thing is, why you got the back door of the jail unlocked for anybody to just walk up in there? Like, I shouldn't have been able to walk in there. That I should have pulled that door and it, been bolt locked.
Right. What kind of jail y'all running here?
I could have grabbed anybody and I wanted, But nah, very valid points though. I think coming up in that school system, you did face challenges, especially when you go to like a diverse school like Reynolds, but you're still like the school very diverse, but yet you're still a strong minority, right? And not just diverse in race, but diverse in class. Like, man, I tell people, like, man, we had kids who lived in neighborhoods, mansion houses,
right?
But like, they shooting movies in their neighborhood. The houses over there getting rented out to be used as a movie set for a week. And you also got kids from the projects,
or like
homeless kids as well.
Homeless,
you know what I mean?
The shelter fed right into Reynolds. Also, children from the children's home.
Yeah. So the race, class, that all played a role in the diversity there. But it's like, if you weren't falling in line or on par with whatever program they want you to be on, it was kind of weird, like a weird weird type of vibe you got. Like if you weren't just falling in with that, and then especially when Obama won, because the first time, like the first Obama presidency, man, like you really seen people that, you know, you might have thought they was decent. Like you seen how they was tripping off that. Like I'll never forget. I wore my, you know, y'all was taking us to the not necessarily the polls, but the
to the Democratic Party.
Yeah, like
making
you just
signs,
helping with the thing, you know, writing all that, calling people. And so, you know, the day after the election results, I wore my shirt around there, and I remember it had like Dr. King and Barack Obama. And man, this dude was like, man, this is still our country and da-da-da. I'm like, man, don't nobody care about what you talking about, bro. Like, we don't care. We really don't care. Like, hold that L real quick. You'll be okay. Man, dude was trying to toughen up. It's like, bro, it's not going the way you think it's finna go. I'm not by myself. Like, it's not going the way you think it's finna go. I'm not intimidated by nothing or nobody. It's not going down like that. And this is in the little where they got the open spot at lunch at. It's cool. But I don't know, you just see, and you see some of that stuff at an early age. So now when we in the climate we in now, and you seeing some people talk the way they talking, I can revert to how they were when we were in school, and I'm like, that's on brand. That's on brand with you, bro. Like, now that I think about it, I remember how you acted when we was in school. You know, I remember how you were towards other black people, you know. And we might have seen you as cool at some point, but we also seen how you acted around your white counterparts when it came to us. So, yeah. What was I like as a kid? Like as a young kid?
Curious, but also very risk averse. I tell people, you know, I was like, he always been the child. It's like, yeah, that don't seem safe to me. Like going to the playground and wanting to know who put the slide together. Who put this crazy together? You know, and just kind of walk in and be like, nah, I don't want to get on that. Jamaica, get on this swing. Nah, I'm good. I'm going to stay down here.
But, I really never liked, I've never been an adventure junkie.
Right. That's why I say risk averse.
Like roller coasters, no, I'm cool.
I remember the day I took you to the fair because you said you was going to ride something. And then we got up there and you was like, I changed my mind. And I'm like, come on. And you almost knocked me down them steps.
I don't recall that, but I had a couple little rides I would ride. Like I had but I'm not like today. Nah, I'll watch it on TikTok, and that's as much as I do. I'm not jumping on no roller coasters. When the fair come around in Tulsa, if I go, I'm there to eat and push on through. I ain't.
Yeah, but I think other things, that I remember, like you were brilliant. Your dad taught you to read at a very early age. So, you went to school young, but you went to school already with like solid literacy skills. Somewhat of a smart aleck. I remember when we moved back here from Missouri and we were going to put you in school and they did the kindergarten screenings and the lady was like, well, where do you live? And you was like, in a house. And she's like looking at me and she was like, but where do you live? You was like, I live in a house with my mom and daddy. And she was like, do you not know where you live? And he was like, I live in a house with my mom and my daddy, my Grammy and my papa. And I was like, she wants to know your address. And you was like, well, she didn't ask me that. Very
valid point, young man.
Yeah, like very literal. Like, I mean, if you want the right answers, you should ask the right questions. Yeah. You have beat on things and hummed since before you was really talking good. But also just a very like calm child. When we lived in Missouri, I remember I sang on the praise team and your dad was beating the drums and we could sit you on the front row until I came down there and you would just sit there. You would have your little I don't know, you know, the stick between the hangers that you used to,
it was like a cardboard jump.
Yeah, and you would sit there and beat your air drums, and you love BB King, and so Mama and them, I guess, had bought you a guitar or something, so you used to be standing on the bed listening to BB King and drum sets, and so back then we had VHS, and they would record videos from church at home and send them, and all you would want to do be rewind so you could watch Habby beat the drums, and you would try to do what Habby did and toe up so I don't know how many pair of drums, like the snare on, I don't know how many drums, because you be trying to beat the life out of them.
That's so crazy.
But you know, you've always been musically inclined. I think you were much older when I realized that you actually could also sing.
They not supposed to know that. Oh. Hey, it's cool though. Some people know, some people don't. They gotta catch me when I'm just. You can't ask me to sing, and I'm gonna just be like, no.
Yeah, I remember when you and your sister used to do them covers. You know, y'all be sitting there.
Look, here's the thing. So I told my students, like, there are covers of me and my sister somewhere out on YouTube, and
they found it.
Oh no. They don't know. That's the part that I'm finna bleep, because they don't know that. I want them to go on this long
search for it.
Yeah. Just keep searching. They didn't.
Oh, okay. That's right. Sorry. You know, you were the first biological grandchild, so definitely spoiled.
I guess to an extent.
Yeah, I mean,
by them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also, you know, believe that you were, you know, not just spoiled, but, you know, definitely loved. You know, while we lived 18 hours away from home, our families were deeply invested in your life. So it was either I was coming home between my college breaks, or they were flying out there to see you, because, you know, it was important that they wanted to make sure that you knew who they were. So, you know, this was wasn't no internet stuff.
Wasn't no FaceTime.
Yeah, wasn't no FaceTime. We was just doing where you had to dial up. You would have to put the CD in and download Explorer and then plug it in and all that stuff. So, just I think for the right people, you were a great child. To other people, they could, you know, maybe find ways to just be like, huh.
So what about when we get to those like adolescent years?
I'm still here by the grace of God.
I wasn't that bad. I couldn't have been. I take that back. Yeah, I was tripping. Go ahead though. I'll let you tell your side of the story.
I mean, you were challenging. I mean, you know, so well, why'd you do that? Because I wanted to. I told you to do such and such. Why didn't you do it? I ain't want to. And to you, that was like a reasonable answer. You know, when I grew up, that's calling for Russells.
What?
Like the funeral home people.
Oh, calling for Russells. I know what you said. You was talking fast.
Yeah, like that's calling for Russells. But yeah, you definitely were challenging with everything from, you know, like I just felt like, you know, you just like, I ain't trying to do too much. It don't take all that. I'm gonna get around to it when, I know you said wash the dishes. I was gonna wash them. I just wasn't gonna wash them now. Like, but you knew I was coming home.
Yeah, well, I wasn't at home most of the time. Y'all wasn't here, so.
Yeah, you told those stories much later.
But I think that's part of like. All right, the people don't know. I've been staying at home by myself since I was in 7. I usually say 8, but yeah, I mean, at some point in time, you start to realize like, my mama don't get off work till 5. My daddy don't get off work till 5. My mama not gonna be here till 5:30. My daddy not gonna be here till 6. As long as I get home by like 4:45, I'm cool.
I mean, you know, and it was you didn't grow up with cell phones. Yeah. Nobody could track nobody. So you was doing all the things. You come in the house, make that phone call. Yes, ma'am, I'm in the house. I'm safe. And then you right back out the door.
Gone. ain't no telling where we was at.
Right.
Especially when Sean got over here.
Yeah.
You talk about gone. Man, we was moving. We was moving. So yeah, I definitely think those like middle school years were a bit of like finding myself and figuring out like what I was cool with, what I wasn't cool with. But then also, you said like when I was younger, I was risk averse. Took more risks, took more chances with stuff. A lot of times, and socially, like friends, like just being out in the neighborhood, just being out wherever. You know, I still tell the story about like the boat and pool incident, like how that whole thing went down. But a younger me probably wouldn't have been out there in the first place. But now I'm growing up, I'm with Sean, I'm with that side of the family. We outside, off the porch, just, you know, probably in not where we weren't supposed to be, just in situations we shouldn't have been in. You know. But that was more to the side of what you was talking about, where Winston was folks was wilding.
Right. And I remember your great grandma, Miss Frances Thompson, would say to me when you was like, "Girl, you gotta loosen that boy up, let him live a little bit." And I'd be like, "Miss Frances, I hear you, and I'm gonna keep my foot on his neck." And I mean, you just gotta let him go sometime. And I remember when you graduated from college, she was like, "I'm really proud of him, and I'm glad you didn't let him up." But I think also, like, there was a vision for your future that didn't involve trying to rewrite history because you had just made bad choices. So, you know, trying to make sure you didn't have to overcome criminal activities that would include a criminal record.
Yeah.
You know, encouraging you, like, don't go out here and make babies that you can't take care of and limit your opportunities and your future. Like, don't do things that's going to have you running in with the law. You know, like I would tell you that. And it wasn't that I was always concerned per se about you, but also like not understanding. I didn't want you to ever find yourself caught up in something because you were just with the wrong people. So like I remember when you know, went to college, and you know, you went to college driving a expedition by your sophomore year in college.
Oh, well, yeah, by my sophomore year.
Yeah, you know, you and I would say to you all the time, you got to be careful who in your car, because when the police pull the car over, it's you.
Yeah.
Somebody else in the car, they can have a gun, they can have the drugs, they can have somebody. If they say it ain't theirs, it all falls on you.
Yeah.
And so, you know, just making sure that you never put yourself in a position where you were going to forfeit your opportunities and your future. And I was just talking to your older sister last night about that and saying, one of the, I think, most heartfelt, earnest prayers that I prayed for you all was, God, don't let them do things that will have lifelong dramatic or detrimental impacts to their future. And I think that meant acknowledging y'all ain't perfect kids. Y'all was gonna do dumb stuff like all, you know, youth and young adults do. You weren't always gonna make the right decisions. But I also realized that there are a lot of young people and young adults that are stuck or have given up opportunities because of one decision. You don't have to be a bad person.
Yeah.
You can make a decision. That decision has consequences that can be life-defining and change the whole trajectory of your life. And so, you know, that was like one of my most earnest, heartfelt prayers. And, you know, like, I'm grateful that, you know, when I look at you all now, I mean, you know, be like, thank you, God.
So speaking of that, when you see us, scratch that. When you see me now at 31, being gone from here 10 plus years, was it 14?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
14
you left in
years.
15.
No, I left in 11 actually.
But
I count that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
but
gone.
you went to Tulsa actually August of 2015.
Yeah, I think he was here like the 15th or 17th or something like that. So, yeah, almost to the day. That's crazy. What's today's date? What's
the
today's
8th.
date? The 8th. You know what happened August 8th?
That's when you tore your no.
Nope. That's when I got hit by that car.
Oh, you're right. You're right, because
Yep.
it was Olympic. It was the opening Olympics.
Opening night.
Yes.
You was like, hey, stay here and watch this with us. I'm like, man, I ain't finna stay here with y'all. Like, and that's the type of mentality I had. Like, man, I ain't trying to stay in here and kick it with y'all. I'm finna be out here, you know. And I probably ain't make it up the road for
You
real.
didn't.
I was 2 streets over. Hey, but no,
Yeah, some random man calling me talking about your son flipped over the handlebars, and you was like, soon as he left, you was like, he hit me. Like, bro, why you didn't tell me that before the man drove off? You was like, I did not flip over. He hit me with his.
Yeah, hey, yeah, that was a wild day. That was a wild day. But
I think you were getting ready to ask me how I.
yeah, like seeing me now at this age and me being gone for so long. What's your, I guess, overall thought about what I've done with myself and, you know, just, I guess, anything general or specific, like, that you want to touch on in that regard?
Yeah, so I think I remember coming out to Tulsa in December, and it was almost a full circle moment. I remember, you know, when you were like, I'm going to school, I'm gonna be a teacher, and you know, I was excited about that because I remember you as a young child, and the first time you had a black male teacher. I believe you were in the 7th grade, and it was a math teacher.
Oh yeah, man, Mr. Store, yeah, wow,
Yeah.
he was African.
Well,
But yeah.
but the first time that you saw someone who looked very similar to you in an education and academic setting.
I think he was from Malawi or something like that. Yeah.
And I understand the importance of children. Like you can't be what you can't see, and how often, especially for black males, they just don't get an opportunity to see a lot of black positive role models. You know, their role models tend to be athletes or you know, just not, they don't get to see like everyday working people who do good things. And I always believed that you had the capacity to be an influencer, to be a mentor, to shape the lives of young people. And I remember being disappointed when you was like, I'm not going to teach, because I truly believe that you had the capacity to connect with people who were younger than you and do it in a way that they could literally connect to you. And so, you know, coming to Tulsa and, you know, seeing you, you know, at the championship game, you know, being excited about, you know, this life that you're building around people's, you know, children, and, you know, being a coach and being a mentor and just, you know, like being a friend. It's just like, yeah, I knew he had that in him all along. And it feels like watching you have a purposeful life. So that makes me proud. I think the other thing, I also wish you gave yourself the grace to not have to feel like it's all got to be figured out and all the boxes got to be checked so fast. You know, like you're only in a competition with yourself. And so it don't matter where somebody else is. You still got a lifetime to do the things that you've been called to do. So I think, you know, sometimes I feel like you don't give yourself credit for the things that you have done. And it's easy to connect your life trajectory to like, well, what's in my bank account? Or, you know, have I, you know, like, well, I thought I was going to have a picket fence and a wife and, you know, 2 kids and, you know, this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
To not discount life, because you might not have kids of your own, but when you look at the young people that you've had the opportunity to meet over the last 10 years, you get to be like, I planted some of them seeds. Like I watered, they not my kids, but I laid water in that, and I hope you like see that. And so, especially over the last year or two, just, like when we do our Monday check-ins and, sometimes you're talking about, some challenges that a student might be having, or, the fact that, somebody's like, hey, Mr. Dash, you're able to help them kind of work through a situation. It's like, I see that and I was like, that's what I knew he had the capacity to do all along. But also, when we were there and, be like you said, hey, Mama Dash, like the kids at the school, and they just like, yeah, we love him. It just, you'd be like, I created some good humans, and y'all doing some good things, and putting all that back in the universe multiplied. So I feel like really, really proud.
For sure, that's good to hear. Mm-hmm. Another thing I wanted to touch on was grief. Mm-hmm. In the grieving process. So you lost your mom, my grandma, 5 years ago. What, I don't want to say what like the hardest part is. I mean, I think we can all agree like the hardest part about losing people is that their absence, right? And sometimes just wanting to see them, hear them, speak with them. Like they played her voice over the thing today, and Titi was like, do you know who that is? I'm like, of course I know who that is. Like, but in this process of like grief and therapy, like what are some of the things that you have encountered and learned and been able to take away from?
So I think one, being the oldest daughter is a very unique role within the family. Yeah. And so,
do you think that's just like every family, or do you think that's like black families?
I can only speak from the black experience.
That's true.
I don't know what white people do.
I'm not gonna fall. Go ahead.
But I think, my mom didn't. I remember y'all kind of going in the room and having conversations, and I imagine that she imparted some things or gave y'all some things to carry with y'all when she knew she was leaving. And we didn't have that. My mom didn't. Yes.
I don't think I had that either. Mm. I think they got that because they were there. I was like the last person to get there. Mm-hmm. So I never got that. I forgot about that too. Yeah. It's like as soon as I got there,
yeah,
I like gave her a hug, and then everything
changed. Yeah,
like quick. So I know, like I think the first time I heard about that was maybe at the funeral, and they was like, yeah, the last time she talked to y'all, and then I'm like, and the last time I talked to her was a month ago through the glass because we couldn't.
Yeah, because
you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't get that either.
I don't think I processed that, but I hope what you did get in that moment, just hearing you said it, like I didn't get to, I hope how deeply she loved you, that she waited for you.
Yeah, I think that was like the first thing you said to me when I got there.
Yeah.
And that was that was the longest, probably 48 hours in terms of from when you called me to when I was able to like actually get there. Because you called me, I was on my way to a shoot in Oklahoma City. And I'm like, on my way, but prior to you calling, I'm like, man, it's my big opportunity. Like, we're an NBA player. Like, I'm finna do this. And then you called me, and I just like broke down crying. I sent them a text. I said, hey man, if I seem disengaged, this is what's going on. I had to find me a flight, worry about my job, talk to them people, and then get there. And it wasn't like I was able to like leave in the morning and land in the morning. Like, that was an all day travel. Mm-hmm. And I never fly to RDU. Flew to RDU. They come get me. quietest 2-hour ride ever.
Right.
Like probably no more than 20 words said. And yeah, I remember walking in, and that was like the first thing you said to me was that like she been waiting on you. Like you said, like I walked in, gave her a hug, and right after that, it
Yeah, that was her last kind of conversations, because you got in on Friday. Late Friday, almost Saturday morning by the time you got in.
Yeah. It was probably like it was probably after midnight.
Yeah. But I think, the thing I was gonna say is the day I went to the hospital to kind of, like to say, hey, she said she don't want to do this no more, so what we got to do to get her home? She told me two things. Like, I told your daddy it's okay for him to marry again, as long as she's not younger than you. I still laugh about that. And she was just like, just make sure everybody good. And so, I think for a long time, like, grief for me was, I didn't feel like I had permission to grieve because I had to make sure everybody was good. Like, it was almost as if she handed me this mantle and said, this your family now. And so it felt like I went from being a daughter to the matriarch of the family, like, overnight.
Yeah.
And, some days I'd be like, I can't be the most wise person in this whole room. Ain't no way in the world, in all the world, I got to be responsible for having enough sense to make sure, because when you think about, like, I think about my mom. I think, like, she was a very wise woman. She could change the temperature. It was like, like when the pH balance needs to shift, she could be the person, her spirit could come and, like, shift whatever needed to be done. And I'm like, when my mom died, like, yeah, I love the Lord, I'm a preacher, but I still be like, hey, we can box about it. I do not care. I ain't really that concerned about your feelings and your emotions. And now it's like, nah, you can't tell your nephews to smack somebody, but you can make them cookies when they do smack somebody.
Which is crazy, because when I did that,
hey, listen, I'm your mama, I'm the auntie. The auntie, is a whole different. That's different. The auntie is different.
Man, she was trying to beat me up in front of the school, in front of the principal, after I was defending myself.
Right. But when my mom got diagnosed in April of 2019, in May, she told me I need to go to therapy. She was like, you need to go to therapy, which was crazy. I ain't even know my mom believed in therapy. I ain't never heard her say nothing about therapy in my whole life. Until that moment. She was, and, I tell people all the time, 6 years later, I'm still in therapy. Excuse me. And I say to my therapist sometimes, like, my mama sent me here. And I felt like it wasn't just about grief. I felt like she was sending me to a place to say, if you're really going to be a change agent for yourself and for this family, you got to be able to demonstrate things that we've never done before. And so when we talk about generational cycles, like learning to not be that person who's going to always knock stuff over, like learning to sit down and use language, figure out your own social and emotional learning and regulations so that you ain't always unhinged. But also to demonstrate to the rest of the people in our family that there's nothing wrong with therapy. Like, go work through your stuff, understand how to manage your emotions, use your words to heal. Like, even when you was here the other week, and I had or month or whenever you was here when grandmama died, and we was riding to church that Sunday, and your sister was like, yo, you was out of pocket yesterday. And I know that normally I would have been like, well, da-da-da-da. And I was like, and she was like, you owe John Mike an apology. I didn't try to defend. I didn't try to deflect. I was just like, okay. Like, and therapy taught me that you don't have to justify. You ain't got to You ain't got to seek to be right. Just know that even if it wasn't your intent, when you cause harm, it's you responsible for fixing it.
Yeah,
So how was that for you?
What?
Like in that moment when I, like called you in here and was like, I apologize.
Man, I'm not gonna lie. It didn't. I don't know the time before that where you had like apologized for something that you had said to me
in real time.
Yeah. Like. So in that moment, I really felt like I wasn't necessarily responding to what had happened that day.
Mm-hmm.
I was responding to everything that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was like I said, that was the very first time where it was like you was apologizing for something that had just happened right then and there. Not like, oh, this happened 5-10 years ago. Now we both done grew up a little bit and we talking about it. It's like, no, this just happened probably less than 24 hours ago. And so it felt like a weight lifted off my chest, like my whole body, that I wouldn't necessarily say was a resentful weight, but like a weight of like, dang, I can breathe now. Like I really felt like there was a barrier broken that needed to be broken in our relationship. Which I always, again, people, when I talk about our relationship, like, yeah, it was definitely rocky. And I think that we both had our flaws, right, in our relationship. Did we work through it? Yes. But that moment just really felt like another step toward progress, and maybe even just to like a means to an end, I guess. Like it just felt like a big relief, honestly. Not that I've been holding on to anything, but here we go. That apology didn't speak to me at 31. It spoke to me as a kid.
Right.
So that was a huge like moment for me to hear that from you right then and there. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it's sometimes there are younger versions of ourselves that have experienced, for lack of a better word, trauma, waiting to heal. And sometimes they'll say, like, don't get stuck waiting on an apology that you'll never get. But we deserve apology, And, like I say to you often, sometimes I'll call, like, oh, I had, I was in therapy today and had this experience. And, I want to go back and, be like, hey, well, I want to apologize for this particular time that I did A, B, and C. But I think when your sister was just like, nah, you was out of pocket and you needed to apologize, I sensed that I needed to do it then. Like, and you were here.
Yeah.
And I think, we've been talking about my therapy journey, but you haven't got to experience the Chanel that is on this road to healing and road to being.
Yeah, because when all the homies, when they come to the chicken and waffles, they be like, your mama's so cool and your mama did. And I'm like, that lady is insane. Like, y'all are getting this new and improved version of her where it's like, yeah, she does smile and laugh and ha-ha. And I'm like, all I remember is she tried to throw me through that window. That's all I remember. She tried to throw me through the window, had us in here doing wall sits and, just loud yelling. I mean, hey. But, again, that does speak to, like, the work you've done and the growth that you've had over the years. So I commend you for that. It just, it takes a lot to grow, especially when it's not a forced thing, but when people choose to grow and choose to change for the better.
Right. And it's not, I think, I didn't realize when my mama said you need to go to therapy that this journey was going to be a journey of healing myself, but also an opportunity to introduce my family to therapy.
-1.
Right, but you still got time.
I got time.
Ain't no judgment. But also, you know, like y'all be talking about, you know, like I be like, oh, when I hear y'all better not hit my grandkids. Y'all be like, what? Like healing for generations that come after us. And, you know, I think especially for Black people, you know, I've really been intrigued around like ancestral trauma and how many generations it takes for a family to heal just from the ancestral trauma of the transatlantic slave trade. And then when we go from the slave trade to the plantation, where many of our ancestors were not only, you know, like physically traumatized, but sexually traumatized. And if you understand like epigenetic makeup, like all of that travels with us. And so the trauma that my mother experienced, that's in my body. The trauma that her mother experienced, that's in my body. Because the reality of it is the ovaries of a woman carries the seed of the generations that follow us. And so if I believe that to be true, and if I believe that we are made in the image of God, then I believe in God's image that there is a generation that follows me that is spiritually and emotionally whole without trauma. But somebody got to be willing to disrupt. And so, you know, I think that's a lot about, you know, like I think about when, you know, you were growing up and I would say stuff like, quit crying. Like, shut up, don't do that, you know. But then I also think about when you silence a Black man and don't give him an opportunity to, like, why are you crying? What are you feeling? Then we all of a sudden expect you, when you get into a relationship, to be able to say to your partner, like, I'm having a hard time with what you're doing, or I'm feeling anxious because they're doing layoffs on my job and I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I'm healing today in hopes that there is a generation that comes after us that they spiritually and emotionally whole. And it's just, you know, it's like doing the work and recreating and doing a lot of apologizing. You know, and I say that to people all the time, you know, y'all got adult children. You know, people that, you know, my kids, like, they don't love God. They don't want to apologize. If you want your kids to be connected to Creator, you got to be the one. You know, it went back to when you were saying, like, we representatives of Christ. Parents are the first billboard that children see around God. And a lot of times our actions are not God-like at home. And it impacts how our children experience God. So.
Some bars, some real deal bars right there, Ma. Last thing you would want to say, or like a lasting message you would want to leave to people watching this about anything, life, your son, your family, you, anything, in the camera.
You said one thing?
Or whatever.
Okay, I got a couple. So the first is go vote. Literally. Vote.
Vote.
Go vote. We getting ready to start, you know, primaries are coming up, setting the stage for the people that are going to be running for the Senate, you know.
I'm not laughing because it was funny. It was just random. I wasn't expecting that.
The Senate, the House. We are living in what happens when people don't take elections seriously. And so, you know, even this week we got people in Texas, they trying to arrest people in Texas because they won't come back because they won't let them vote on this redoing of the congressional map so they can steal elections. So our votes do matter when people are like
redlining. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's
Gerrymandering.
What is redlining?
Redlining is for the housing,
Yeah.
housing discrimination. But people, always like, our votes don't matter because they only think about the presidential election. Mm-hmm. But you can look right now and see all the, when bills are being passed that are impacting our livelihood and our federal budgets and all of that stuff. Our votes matter. It's so important. We can't afford to sit out any election. The other thing, go to therapy. Like, I truly believe in order for us to be all God designed us to be. Dr. Anita Phillips wrote the book, The Garden Within, and how God created us. And there's some things deep in the roots that we just got to deal with. And, being open to, all the practices and ways in which we get to connect back to God. And doing that in a way that also honors, our ancestors, and stop letting people write this Eurocentric version of who God is and who God is to black people. People say all along, I have a lot of questions about white Jesus that don't necessarily resonate. It's just like y'all have taken religion in the Bible and used it in ways to hold black people down, and I just don't believe that, that aligns with who God really is. And I love the God of the Bible, but I also got a whole lot of questions about white Jesus. And I think, I don't, your younger sister asks me often, like, when you was growing up, what do you want to be?
Me?
No, me. She, she'd be like, what did you want to be when you grew up? And, I had a dream of being a wife. I had a dream of being a mother. I never dreamed about being rich. I didn't have this dream of, like, Mercedes Benz and all of these things. I wanted a life that was calm. A place that when I lay in my head at night, it was peaceful. And I feel like, I'm living my piece of heaven right now. So, yeah. That's all.
All right. Well, Mom, I appreciate you taking an hour and some change to
I was about to ask how many more questions.
No, we good. But the time kind of flies when you having a conversation like this. That's the one thing that I did pick up, like, with the few of these that I've done and the many of podcast episodes that I've recorded, is the time flies when you sit here having real, like, good conversation. But I appreciate you for everything that you've done for me, the things that you continue to help me with to this day, even when it comes down to, like, the inner workings of business. That's your threshold where you know exactly what is going on. And sometimes I'm like, man, I don't understand how this didn't work. And you like, well, did you try this? I'm like, dang, she right. Like, this the one thing I missed. But I'm glad that you even there to kind of help me through some of that and helping me figure that part out. But yeah, thank you for being what?
No, I was just thinking, parenting. One of the things that therapy taught me is you got to learn to focus on what you have control over. And I think the biggest challenge that parents of adults have is recognizing that our role as a parent
It's changed.
Yeah. And being okay sit in that role of coaching. Are you open to feedback? Do you just need somebody to listen to? Sometimes knowing exactly what to do to fix the situation and knowing, this got to be a learning moment for them. So you just going to have to sit back and watch it play out. But also, creating that space so that y'all feel comfortable, like, hey, this ain't working out and I don't really know what to do. But y'all don't, if we don't create the space for you all to feel comfortable in doing that, you suffer in silence. So, just like learning to coach and knowing that at the end y'all gonna be good. You know, y'all got good stuff in y'all, and it's exciting. It's a blessing. It feels like an answered prayer to be able to watch y'all blossom. You know, sometimes just like in growing a plant, some leaves just ain't gonna make it. And, you know, sometimes your dreams don't make it, but it don't mean you throw the whole plant out. Like, even when it look like the dream is dying, there's still something in the dirt. And if you just keep watering it, something else comes up. So it might not be the first thing you put your hand on that prospers, but, you know, it all comes, yeah. All things work together for the good of them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Y'all got purpose. I believe that.
For sure. All right. This is Johnny Dash, Missionelle, Mama Dash, and we out.